Hi, it's Nancy Yeareld, and welcome to High Road to Humanity. Boy, I've got a special lady here today. Ellen Kahn is here today. And is it Cone or Con?
Cone, like
Cone,
ice cream
okay.
cone.
Welcome to the High Road.
Thank you. Thank you for having me.
Oh man, I am so excited. You guys, she works with the horses and she has written this book, and part of this is channeled by the horses. There are three horses, and it's called Be Like the Wind. And this is what it looks like if you're watching me on video today. Three Equines channel spiritual light. And man, this book resonated with me. It's all the stuff I talk about. So I just love it. It's coming from the animals, it's coming from the horses.
Oh,
And thank you. I mean, this is a big deal. You're the first lady that I've had come on to do this. Um,
well, thank you.
yeah, I've had a lot. I have a love for horses, and I think a lot of people do. And
Hmm.
before we get into it, and I start talking about Ellen and the horses, I want to mention my book, A Guide to Angel Communication and Spiritual
Oops.
Law. That's okay. She wants to see too. All right, the kids
Yes.
in the picture. This came out December 1st, and so I'm very grateful for Collective Ink for putting this out. It is a connection to an angel's connection to God. It's connecting to spirit, connecting to God, connecting to the angels and to, the Mother Earth. And also, I have messages in there from Archangel Gabriel that I have channeled that are at the end of the book, and they're letters to humanity. I've done some
Mm.
podcasts. Yeah, I've done some podcasts. I've done some shows. The coolest thing that's happened is to hear people's stories. I've connected them, live on radio with their angels, and then they've talked
Oh.
back with me. Yeah, and that's been the fun part about this. So I'm really excited
Ah.
about that. So let's just get into this. I want to talk about this. Ellen, tell us your story. I want to know, how did it first begin? Because this was all, I don't want to give it all away, but this whole thing has been orchestrated where these three horses have, yeah, it's okay. Your cat's here. She probably likes
No, he's trying to mess with the cord. He's going to start poking at my hand in a minute. They've been fed twice. So I may have to move behind me to the table where this is where they eat on the counter.
all the
So I
kids.
may have to go 10 feet in back of me
That's
so I'm not
okay.
disturbed.
It's all right.
Um,
Well, you want to just keep going and see what happens?
yeah, because he definitely wants to interact here.
Oh, God
So
bless.
the journey with the horses started, this particular book started in 2015, riding Monty and jokingly saying, "What life advice do you have today?" And he said, "Be like the wind." And I was so taken aback, I wrote it down. And things kept coming in along the lines of, you need to say this, you need to write this, you need to get it out there. We want our messages to be heard. And because I do talk to animals, and sometimes my own are clear, we're not always as connected on a psychic level because we're too involved emotionally at times with our own animals to
Right.
hear these messages. It was an unfoldment, and it really amped up my spiritual journey, which I'd already been on in various ways throughout, I would say, age 40 to 50, but not as a kid. I get asked that a lot. Were you the one? Yeah, I was doing it, but I didn't know I was doing it
Right.
as a
That was
kid.
me too. Yeah, exactly.
And then
Exactly.
you look back and you go, "Oh, that
Oh,
was spiritual experience. Oh, that happened to me. Oh, that was synchronistic." And all the puzzle pieces come together. So the book was a culmination of so many things in life that I could talk about and felt comfortable putting out there through them, channeling images and stories, and me asking questions. Oh, how many past lives have we had? Can you show me pictures? What did those look like? And then I get an image and I go, "So you served with a king? Yes. What country? Oh," and then it would just, the writing was kind of automatic in that
yeah,
sense.
it would flow. Yeah.
Yeah.
And I just want to, this is really interesting stuff because there is a Queen Council of Elders. And
Mm-hmm.
this council, and I have a lot of notes, but the council represents a group of fully ascended beings who have spent many lifetimes as a horse. So,
Mm-hmm.
do you want to talk about this was all orchestrated
Mm-hmm.
for this time, for the awakening?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, do you want to talk about that?
Sure, because who knew that unicorns could be as real as perhaps some have taught
Are they?
us.
Are they?
I believe they are.
Okay.
And, going back to the time of Eohippus and going to into the quantum and saying, well, we were chosen, and we were chosen to appear in an order in your life so you could piece it together, starting with Billy and then Monty and then Romeo, and seeing, oh, you were teaching this horse and he was teaching the next one in line. And Romeo, who's still alive, is like, I'm getting those chills, and I'm sure you know what those mean in the angelic realm,
Mhm.
that Romeo is like the epitome of love. They all have it. They all have it. We all have it.
We all
We
have.
all have that capability. But when you see an animal that is so unconditionally accepting of everything and everyone around him, never holding a grudge, never, hardly even getting angry. I'm not even sure I've ever seen him like pin his ears, like, get out of my space, like bossing. And it blows my mind that it's this ascendance feeling that there was somebody bigger than the three of them, and they were guided and they were chosen by this council
Yeah.
that could be unicorns, could be. I mean, I have a client, and I honestly, after 8 years of working with him and his horse, think that his horse may have been part of that council, because he blows my mind. He was a racehorse in
Wow.
this lifetime.
Right.
And I don't know. He's powerful. Not that they all aren't, but it's like he's been around the block so
Yeah.
many times.
Well, that's the cool thing. They all incarnate just like we do. And that's
Yeah.
really interesting. And I think a lot of animal lovers would like to know these things. And they're here to educate humans in spiritual law.
Hmm.
Man, that hit home with me with my book. I mean, I'm teaching spiritual law, and I'm like, oh my God, the horses are teaching the same thing.
Hmm.
That
They
is
are.
so crazy. Yeah. And
And Nancy, I now believe some animals are earth angels.
yeah,
I really believe they come in for a short period of time when you're in a great need. I had a cat. He died at age 5. He came in right when I broke my leg, had a huge surgery. That cat was feral, but he was glued to me. And I believe now, and it took a while, that he was sent at a particular moment in a huge healing crisis to help me and support me. And then when he was done, he left.
right. Well,
And
energetically, the animals have this, and I've learned this over time, and if you want to expand, I've learned, like I have cats, I have 2 cats. I've always had animals. I've got a real thing about horses, but I had a pony when I was little, but I don't have a horse now, but I'd like to. But the animals have this energy, and what they always know if you're upset, and they calm you down. I mean, that's how I feel about this. I
mhm.
feel there are our companions. So let's talk about this. The horses have extraordinary ability to calm your soul and to assist you in the energetic healing. I actually wrote that down. So
Uh-huh.
just being around the horses heals you.
Yes. Yes, it does. When
Yeah.
you're in their field, you just feel this like hug and this embrace of, I'm here for you. I can help you ground. You need to leave your stuff over there and come in my bubble. Be with me.
Yeah.
And when you get on the back of a horse, everything does. If you have to kind of be mindful, you have to tune down the monkey mind and the to-do list and say, let's be here now.
Be
I know
present.
that's a
Yeah.
famous Ram Dass, be here now in this moment, because that's all we really have. And
Yeah.
the horses get you there, and they get you to be like, you have to think about safety. If you're not in that zone, you could get stepped on by mistake or knocked over by mistake. They're not doing it on purpose,
Right.
but they move around, and you have to really watch where your feet are, where your head is. When you're up there, you have to be. I ride out here in the trails. You have to watch for dogs and coyotes and cars and trucks. So that part of it is kind of high alert. But when you're calm, they're calm. And when they're calm, it works in
Both
tandem.
ways. Yeah, but it works both ways. I want to talk about the trine. I want to talk about the 3 horses. I'm into numbers, angel numbers, of
Ah,
course. I call them angel numbers. I see 333 a lot. You
yep.
talk about how they chose, the council chose three horses, the power of three. Um, talk about the threes. This was really interesting to me.
And again, Nancy, that was an afterthought or an after energetic hit because wait a minute, I'm seeing triangle. I'm feeling the number three. Oh, Billy was part of this. He added to Romeo and Monty. Whoa, that's three. That's a sacred number. The
Right.
Father, the Son, the Holy
Holy
Ghost. Like,
Ghost, yeah.
I'm not religious per se, but the number three, like you just said, is symbolic of the quantum, the angelic realm, the spiritual realm. And it was like a baton that was passed from one to the other to the other. So it became part of the book because I kept thinking this wasn't one or two. They had a co creative thing going.
Yeah, I just think it's really cool. And now's the time. And I love this. And, I do feel now is the time. And I want you to expand upon it, if you will. This was all, what's really cool about this? And I just want to get your feel. Let me back up. So this was all orchestrated. These three horses, had you been with these horses before in other lifetimes?
Yes, I
Okay.
had, especially Monty,
Okay.
9 times.
Oh,
Because, and it's important to add this for your readers and your listeners that when he died so suddenly in 2017, a matter of 2 days, here today, gone tomorrow, I was in such shock that I was scared to drive a car. I was like, what is going on? My world collapsed. And I had to keep looking at it and looking at it and looking at it and realizing finally doing a lot of trading with my colleagues, psychic readings. The reason I was so wrought is we had been together 9 times and that was so deep in my soul, these connections and the feeling of him being my protector, which is what he told me part of the reason he left was, and suddenly was I would have made myself crazy trying to save his life, being a holistic practitioner, but it was time to disconnect and it was holding me back from the next step of my spiritual growth. So people that grieve so heavily, it could be more than this lifetime, number one. And number two, they may need to dig around like, a dog that did that. I had a reading and she said, you were a shaman in a past life and your dog was a little boy and you couldn't save him. So
oh,
that pattern was repeating where in my mind, I failed to save the dog and had failed as a shaman to save the little boy, but it wasn't up to me. It's their path. And that's a huge life lesson. We cannot save another animal, person. We want to, we can help possibly, but it's their soul journey and their contract. And that's important. That is very important for all of us.
yeah, because we don't know what we contracted before we came down here. We all have a mission. So that's interesting. So Billy came first and he's no longer with us.
Right. Right.
And then Monty was next, and he's passed. That's who we were speaking of
Yes.
right now. So Romeo, the lover, I love this because I teach about love and love of the angels and all of that. Does he can you bring forth any messages from Romeo?
Yeah, he actually was on Robert Manny's podcast. He
I was
wanted
just
me
gonna ask,
outside.
can
He
you bring
wanted
forth?
Romeo there. He was happy to be there. He was happy to say this is, I mean, he had his head on my shoulder. He was nuzzling around for treats in a very polite way. But he's a Mustang. And boy, did he go through it when he was captured. He has been through the most kinds of trauma you would never want anybody or any animal, separated from family, watching family members die, never seeing his siblings again, being granted in the prison system where, yeah, they're fed, they're not loved, but they have jobs. He was a trainer's horse, watched a lot.
Where was he captured? Like what state? Can I ask that?
Northern California. I know the name of the area. It's called
Okay.
Susanville. And
Okay.
I was told that by the gentleman that brought him to my home in Evergreen and showed me on his brand, the area of the country. And he had his paperwork and his everything. But, Romeo had a big leap to go from living in a cow pen with a man that didn't particularly, his trainer didn't really love on him. He used him, but the guy was retiring. He didn't care much about where Romeo was going. I spent an entire day at the prison watching and absorbing, how the humans heal when they get to work with the wild horses. It was amazing. I wish there were programs like that all over the country or the world, because the young inmates clearly were bonded with the burros and the horses.
That's
So
something that they
Romeo,
should do.
oh,
Yes, that's something they should do. I just wanted to stop a second. I've heard of that before, where they bring in
oh,
horses for the inmates, and that is something. If there's anybody out there hearing us, maybe we could expand upon that. And people who have any kind of difficulties, doesn't have to be prisons, any kind, right?
and they do it with dogs. People can take their troubled dogs to the prison, and they have, I don't know, 90 days with an inmate, and the inmate gets healed and the dog gets healed. They socialize the dog.
Wow.
But I've heard of those programs being really successful as well, because
Yeah.
we know animals are healers.
I
So,
know. That's what's so cool about this whole thing is that they are
yeah.
healers. Well, and Romeo was a wild horse. Now I'm going to ask you this really quickly, just for my own. I was a real estate broker in New Mexico, and I oversaw a large development, and there were wild horses.
Oh,
And I would just go and try to see the wild horses, but everybody wanted to capture them. It was a thing. They had stuck together, they ran in a pack. But it's like, I don't know all the laws and all the rules, but why didn't they just leave them alone? I mean, what is going on here in the US as far as, I just want to briefly ask you what you know about the wild horses, because they shouldn't be in captivity. They're wild. What's the situation with that? I mean, they're running on ranch land, the ones I knew,
yes,
you
yes.
know?
I
What?
think that's the crux of it, is the ranchers don't want them eating the foraging where cattle or sheep, that they're taking away from their livelihood. However, there are programs to move them to giant chunks of wilderness in Oregon and northern Montana and those areas where they
So
can
there are.
meet,
Okay.
and their fertilization programs in process to keep the populations down. But there really is plenty of land in our country
Yes,
for everybody to coexist.
I agree with that. I mean, I just want to say, that's kind of a big deal. And I I love the horses. I have a love. I think a lot of people, God, I even think about, they always say Jesus rides a horse, which is interesting.
Ah, I love.
And I've heard that before too. In your book, you guys, she covers a lot. And I just want to say there are like different sections in the book. Part two is about the collaborators. That's where they kind of channel and bring in their information and that. And you do have where we talk about soul healing, you talk about the energy of love, you talk about manifestation. You also talk about the portals.
Mhm.
What do you want to say about that?
Well, if you can view life as a sacred journey, and it is hard, I'm not saying it's easy. Believe me, I've had my share of personal and family trauma, unbelievable.
Right.
Okay. But if you can view life as your teacher, your spiritual teacher, and maybe not have a guru or a class or an online, whatever, to know that the portals are always there. The signs and signals are all around you,
Mhm.
probably all the time. And the access to that realm is also available. It's there. So whether it's a meditation, a walk in nature, I mean, that in the book is true. Where my husband and I were walking, we heard this whoosh and there was no wind. And I'm like, what was that? And he's, not in the same genre that I am. He kind of rides on my coattails. And we're like, that was a guide. Somebody was coming through. And it happened in my corral where those three wind tunnels came one at a time. And I had just said, like, help. I had thrown up a plea, like, I forget, I was dealing with some health issues. And one came and spun right towards me and stopped. The next one
Oh
came
my
and turned
God.
left. The third one almost knocked me over. And I'm like, all right, I'm listening. And then I asked somebody, what were those? And the guy said they were kachinas. they were Native American spirits. Like, whoa, here I'm getting the chills as I'm telling you
I
this
am too.
story.
They'll probably love it that you're working with the horses because the horses really need to be free.
Yeah,
And I'll just say this quickly, and I said it on a show recently where I had an animal communicator on. We need to get rid of the zoos. And we need to get rid of all this kind of stuff where we keep animals in inhumane conditions because that's not necessary, for any of that to go on. But I feel that this will change as we evolve. Now it's
I
interesting.
agree.
Yeah, thank you. As
But
we
first, we have to stop the poaching and the capture of the tigers in foreign countries that end up in those zoos. So for now, let's perhaps agree that it's a compromise that you get the bears out of the circuses where they're wearing the rings and the chains, and you get them possibly to a bear sanctuary or zoo where it's one step better than what they have.
Right.
So we can't necessarily go from point A to Z without a middleman rescuing them from those situations. Like there are times I think about Romeo, like he's here and he's domesticated, but then I go, well, he's so happy. And we rescued a wild burro from the BLM program, the government program in Arizona.
Mm-hmm.
And she was starving. So she had,
So it just
thankfully,
depends. Yeah. Well,
she's happy. She had her a foal here, so we have two donkeys, and the foal is three. We adore them. We call them our grand asses,
I
and
love it. I love
we
it.
have millions of pictures of them in addition to our human granddaughters. But everybody we meet, it's like, you have donkeys. I love
Oh, they're
donkeys.
awesome. Well, yeah. I know in
And
Arizona they run free. I've been there and let
yes,
them run free there, and it's awesome. It's really
but
awesome.
this little band, and apparently there are only 100 in that band, was near Yuma. And according to the government, they were interfering with the
Oh,
population. So they're culling them. There's another very famous herd in Oakman, I think, Oakman, Arizona.
yeah,
And they run around the streets greeting
yeah,
all the
yeah,
tourists,
yeah. And
but they're not
that's where I've been.
captured.
Well, that must be where I've been because it was
Oh,
crazy. And they just roam around and roam free. And I thought it was the coolest thing I had ever seen. But I want to say something real quick before I move forward about the animals. We need to stop as US citizens, as we raise our vibration, we need to not take the tigers. And that would stop it. The whole thing would
oh
stop.
yeah.
But that's what I feel. I'm so adamant. I love the animals,
I
you
I'm
know.
about to next week start trapping some feral cats at my house sitter and his girlfriend's house because for one podcast I went to borrow her headphones, and when I saw the kittens, he's like, "Look at the kittens." And I kept thinking and thinking, wait a minute. He feeds 7 ferals. There are 3 kittens. That's 10 that he sees. So I'm going to take that effort and get them neutered and, spay, neuter, trap, neuter, release, because I don't want them repopulating. And apparently there are over 100 feral colonies around the Santa Fe area.
Oh my
That's
God.
shocking.
That is shocking that, yeah, people need to, yeah. Oh, well, and I want to get back to the connecting part because there was so much, I know this sounds weird, but there were a lot of similarities to my book in this book, which really shocked me. The spiritual laws and also the
Mm-hmm.
connection, the connecting with the divine. You also talk about the angels and
Mm-hmm.
can expand a little upon that? Like what your finding has been?
I have studied on my own, and I have come to believe when you ask for help, you receive help.
Mhm.
I've been told and taught, and maybe you can confirm this, that they're always around, but they like to be asked. And some of the stuff says you can command them, but you do it nicely. And I don't know if I like that.
No, we have
I
free
would
will.
rather say,
Yeah.
please.
Yeah, no, that's the key to this and I'll just tell you quickly, is free will. We as humans, just like the horses, and I guess I want to talk about bringing in the light with the horses and how they connect. But as far as the angels go, we have free will, and my angels standing right next to me. And as long as I ask, And that's the key. You have to ask.
Mhm.
They're here. They want to be acknowledged, but
Mhm.
also have to be asked. And once you ask, then you can start communicating telepathically, just like you do with the horses. And that's what I found really interesting too. You communicate with the horses just like I communicate with the angels, and they
Mhm.
communicate with the angels too. Now, do they talk about the spiritual realm and connecting with the divine energy and things like that, or connecting with the nature energy? What do they talk to you as far as, what is their information, I guess is my question. Anything that,
Yeah, I'm kind of summing it up in terms of all beings and messages that we are beings of light.
Mhm.
So we can share that light. We can work, for example, heart chakra to heart chakra with a cord, to communicate. We can simply have a conversation like, what do you think today? Or putting it out like once I remember where I was riding Monty and I said, well, what would happen if you die before Romeo? And he said, Romeo will step up and take my place. And I was like, okay, okay. I hadn't thought of it consciously, but clearly they had connected on that level. Like one was maybe preparing the other or watching, Romeo watching Monty, how to be with a human because his previous human, or maybe his only human, his trainer wasn't in alignment
right,
spiritually with him.
right.
So it's this continuum of spiritual alignment, spiritual ascension to the point where you're kind of seamless. And I
Mm.
don't have that with every animal. And I'm sure you know that. I'm sure your listeners know that there are some animals you are, oh my gosh, you think a thought and they've already gotten it 5 minutes earlier. And there's some you're working at it a little going, I have a cat here right now that we inherited, and I'm constantly talking to her like, hey, please step up and do your part. I know cats are territorial. Stop chasing one of the others. You're
Yes,
scaring
I
him.
do too. I do that too. I've got two going on right now, and I've
Yeah.
I've been playing that game with them, and they understand. And that's one thing I want to say. Animals understand everything that we say, don't they?
Yes.
They
Doesn't
really
mean they're
do.
going to cooperate. I've learned that. It
Well,
doesn't mean they're going to
no,
compromise. It means sometimes, sorry, I'm really mad at you, and this is how I'm going to show it.
I
And
know.
until you change, I'm not going to change. Oh, okay. It
Well,
can work that way.
I know. And God, animals, they all have their own, and I want to know what you feel about this or what the horse has said about this. The horses reincarnated each time, and they knew they were going to reincarnate as horses. Do the animals, like the cats, always stay as cats and there's a cat council? I've heard this. And is there a horse council and the horses always stay as horses? Is that how it goes?
That's a great question. I've been asked that almost every podcast. So I wasn't sure many years ago where I landed on that. One
Hmm.
of my teachers in Santa Fe said, "Oh, dogs come back as dogs, cats come back, people come back as people." And I'm like, I don't know. And
No, I don't know about that.
I asked a medium, she's no longer doing this, and her answer was, "Oh no, I've been a woolly mammoth."
Yeah, see, I think so too.
Me
I think,
too, Nancy.
yes, I agree with that. What I feel intuitively is we evolve. Maybe we started out as whatever, and we evolved to get to this point to where our soul could go into a human body. That's what I think.
And a friend of mine in Colorado who follows the Ama that travels the universe, the world, the Ama taught my friend that the hunted, no, the hunters can come back as the hunted. So a human might come back as an elk or a deer. Think about that.
Well, I know. No, okay, so let's talk about this because if you don't mind for a moment.
No, I don't mind.
Yeah, so I have a real thing about meat lately, or not even lately. This has gone on for years with me now. The more spiritual I became, the more I just couldn't eat meat anymore. I just couldn't. But I found I have to eat a little bit because it's almost like our bodies are
Yeah.
so um used to it. It's like we can't just go cold turkey. We have to have a little bit, no pun intended there. But anyway, um what do you feel? I mean, and then I look in the Bible and they used animals as sacrifice, but then, who knows what part is right and what's wrong. Are we supposed to eat meat? What do you think about this?
I personally, again, my own journey is I feel better on a physical level when I eat some meat.
Right.
That said, I try to bless it and I do thank. I thank the if and when I was really sick in 15, bison was one of the only things that would nourish me.
Really?
Bison burgers, and I would thank it. Thank you for nourishing me because I knew my blood needed help along the way. Turned
Mm.
out I think I had a pretty bad parasite from traveling. We went to China at one point, we were in South America. I picked something up and it wasn't like detected in all the testing I was doing, which can happen apparently. And once somebody muscle tested me and said, I think you have a parasite, and I got on the right homeopathic, I
Mhm.
got started to get better, but I'm a sensitive person. I get wrong foods, not meat, will give me rashes or headaches. So I watch what I eat. And I try long before I got sick, I was vegetarian and I wasn't okay.
Right. It's weird that you would say that because I got the same thing. I ate someplace where food wasn't prepared properly, and I got the same kind of parasite thing, had to get, again, like
Yeah.
homeopathic medicine. I've been through this too,
Yeah. Yeah.
because I'm an empath and we're more sensitive. But what I've
Mm-hmm.
realized is the more you connect with the divine, the more you connect with nature, the angels, all of it. I can't have a glass of wine. I would like to have a glass of wine because
No way.
wine, but I can't have it. My body rejects it. It's really quite interesting.
Mm-hmm.
You've dealt with this too. So as you
Mm-hmm.
evolve and you raise your vibration, your
Yes.
body rejects.
Absolutely. And you're younger than I am, but I have been thinking about that a lot lately that, I'm doing this work more and more. I'm a seeker, I'm a learner. I can't get enough listening and learning and absorbing and being out there.
Right.
I seem to some ways being even sugar. I have to be super careful
Yes.
with that.
Yes.
Forget gluten. And then someone said the other day when I asked her, she's like, well, maybe it's the glyphosates and the gluten. I'm like, well, maybe it's that too. Because
It's the
supposedly,
preservatives.
yeah,
I don't mean to interrupt you. I apologize,
yeah,
but I'm going to tell you what it is because I've really, I mean, man, I am so sensitive because I connect with the divine every day.
yeah, yeah.
And it's the preservatives. Anything
Mm-hmm.
that I have that has a preservative in it makes me sick.
Yeah,
So I believe that our food, well, we'll get into that later, but maybe we'll talk about what the horses eat. But for our food supply is really terrible.
it is.
It's absolutely, and
It is.
it almost feels like it's on purpose, but that's a whole nother show.
Oh
But
gosh, I hope not, but
But,
maybe,
but maybe,
maybe,
yeah, some of this,
maybe.
well, to make money,
Oh yeah,
they
yeah.
put the dyes in and they put the preservatives in. It's all about money. Now, the horses, as far as their diet goes and as far as their health goes, talk about that a little bit. They're pretty well taken care of.
Yes.
The grains that they eat are good and sufficient for them.
Mm-hmm. I try my hardest. You can't always get GMO free grain. You do your best. Organic, you do your best. But I also douse everything because even Romeo is very sensitive. His stomach, if
Okay.
I'm not sure, and he gets very little because he's kind of robust, kind of round, so I can't overfeed in the grain area. He can get plenty of fresh hay. And in the day, I did find organic hay, but I had to drive like way south. I had to bring my own flatbed. The guy didn't have sufficient help. The hay was healthy, but it was super dusty. And I gave up because I have a good hay supplier that brings hay from Colorado. I love the hay. It's low sugar. So I do my best, but it isn't perfect.
Mhm.
Just like,
We
we
gotta,
think we
yeah.
try our best. We
Mhm.
try our best. And I'm very conscious of what could cause like runny, manure. When I ride, I bring peppermints, but then I have a homeopathic. It's a mix, but I found it through working with this amazing vet years ago. So I have to remember to give him that homeopathic so he won't get loose stool.
Yeah.
But, and I have a newer horse. This is so fascinating. It came from not a great scene a year ago. His mane and tail fell out,
Oh my gosh.
fell out.
Oh
And
my,
so I got his blood work done. He's fine. No thyroid, no physiological imbalance. The vet said, your
was it
horse is healthy.
emotional? Was it emotional?
Uh-huh.
I picked that up. It was emotional. Yeah.
And so I started making customized doused flower crystal essences because it was somatic. And I'm on the third one, and I just called it for peace. And I put a few drops in his food,
Yeah.
and
Picture.
his mane is growing back. I'm not sure yet. The mane fell out first, so it's the first one to come back. And I
Oh,
think it, but I also saw a huge change in his energy over the last year, where I kept saying, "You're basically in retirement. You're not going to be hit. We're just tootling around the neighborhood. You don't have to be like switched on, like a get on you. We're just going to relax." And very gradually, the look in his eye, his body language, like you'd go walk in to clean the stall, he'd jump. You're not even anywhere near him with the pitchfork, and he'd jump
God
or
bless.
move away. Like
Yeah.
he's startled. No, 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 no. And the last 2 weeks, he doesn't move his feet, which tells me he's okay. So
Oh,
I'm like, yay.
you're doing good work. I want to know, we've got a few minutes left here today. I want to know, if you don't mind, what are some of the messages that the horses channel that really you would like to share with humanity, that you'd like to share with the
Well,
audience?
I know in the beginning of the book, they told me right up front, you don't have to do, you don't have to become, you don't have to be a better this or that. You're pushing that rock up the mountain. It's just going to fall down again. Walk in your spiritual light, be the best version of yourself. And that's all that you're going to be able to do. Like you can't achieve more on the physical to improve your life. It's not going to work. And stop the rage, stop the anger. It's coming out in every pore of every living thing, maybe not the plants or the rocks, but the humans. We feel your rage. You're destroying yourselves, you're destroying your planet, and we're part of it. So
Mhm.
those messages are huge. Like go
Yeah,
within and do the work, do
yeah,
the work,
we all
walk
have to
your
go.
path.
Yeah.
Yeah. All
It's
this stuff doesn't mean anything anyway on the
all the
soul
material
level.
stuff, right? All the material stuff means nothing when you get up, when you go from this life to the next life.
Right.
I always feel like, it's how kind you were down here, and were you a decent person? Were you nice to other people? Did you care about other people? I think
Mm-hmm.
that, we're trying to elevate our souls. We're down here, I call it Earth School. We're down here learning,
Mm-hmm.
trying to elevate our souls, but it
Mm-hmm.
feels like the horses are also in Earth School, is what I feel.
They are, and you don't have to be um, in the like riding horses or working with them. Maybe you volunteer, or maybe you go stand near a field and a horse's energy. I had a woman who was house sitting come over many years ago, and she said, "I'm terrified of horses." And I said, "This horse will help you heal whatever you're working on. Stand next to Monty by his shoulder." And he wrapped his neck around her, and she burst into tears. She was a healer also. And she said, "I feel it. I feel it." And she was crying and crying, and she had a healing. She definitely got some of that horse healing energy, because that's what they do. And yet they give it, but they also at times really need it. They too have been through it. Many, many, many of them. And the ones on the way to slaughter that get picked up at the kill pen and taken. There's so many sanctuaries doing this now, though. And I'm encouraged. There really has been a growth of people that want to get them out of those trucks and pens and holding areas around the country. I think there are over 60,000 Mustangs in holding pens,
Oh my
if
God.
I'm right.
Wow, that's
And
great.
if you follow Carol Walker, she's a photographer that travels the West and does documentaries, and I think she might have a YouTube channel. She alone is a phenomenal mouthpiece for the Mustangs. She's incredible.
crazy. Well, yeah, because they're all around them. You see them, and it's, people are excited to see them, but I think they're mistreated, and people try to catch them,
Mhm.
and they're wild, and that's just a whole nother thing. Well, I'm just grateful that you put this together because
Well,
I think people really love the horses. They want to know more about the horses, and it's a beautiful, beautiful book about.
thank you.
It really is. I was very, very, very pleased, and thanks for coming on. Now, if people want to get in touch with you, how can they get in touch with you?
Okay, so I have two websites, enlightened with an ed animals.com, and my newer website, because I do a lot of psychic work, heavily trained in that area, is called psychicjourneys.net. And it's kind of a breakout of the enlightened animals site because people would contact me and my email's in there. I'm not sure which service I want. So we would get on the phone and figure out
Yeah.
the energy series, the psychic reading, the animal communication, something.
Yeah.
But the psychic journeys is in and of itself explains how I go and I do my readings. So that,
Fantastic.
and my email address, my home phone is on there.
Okay.
I love to connect. I really love to be of service. That's why I'm here like you. And it really makes us more complete to know we're that vessel. We are also vessels that, divine energy can come through us and out
And
into
we
the
can be the
world.
light. We can be the light. Yes,
Yeah,
absolutely. You
yeah.
guys, the book is called Be Like the Wind, Three Queens Channel Spiritual Light. It's just a beautiful cover too. We got to get out of here for today.
Okay.
If you guys are interested, if you want a psychic reading, I've got two websites too. psychicjourneyvanity.com you can go to, or nancyyearout.com. Remember to pick up my book, A Guide to Angel Communication and Spiritual Law. Oh, my other one's still out here too. Wake Up, the Universe is Speaking to You. If you want to check that out, it's all about energy. I wish everybody a fabulous, fabulous week. Stay warm out there, and God bless.